Wonderful. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Jennifer Bautista. I am one of the transfer admissions counselors at Seattle University. This is the College of Nursing Bachelor of Science informational presentation for Nursing Fall 2023 cohort. I will go ahead and let my colleagues introduce themselves and we can jump right into all of the information.
Hi everyone, my name is Carrie Burkus. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions for Transfer Recruitment. I use she, her pronouns, and I work with students who have last names A through F.
Hello everyone, thanks for watching this recording. My name is Mia Strautsis, she, her pronouns. I'm also a transfer admissions counselor working with students' last names Q through Z.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mia and Carrie. Carrie, if we want to go to the next slide, you all can see our splits there. It's also available on our Seattle University website in case you all want to set up a virtual appointment with us. All right. So again, this is a nursing information session specifically for transfer students and post-bac students. So if you do not think you identify as either, this may not be too relevant for your educational path. If you are a running start student who is interested in the 2-year program, a lot of the information will be relevant, such as the prerequisites, the materials you'll need to submit, but the timeline and application you will need to complete will be a little bit different. So there is additional information on the SU admissions website about the specific running start application process. All right, so now a little bit of information regarding our mission statement. We always like to begin these presentations by introducing our mission statement, just because we are a mission-driven institution and it is the foundation of the university. But what does that mean? So the mission is our Jesuit model of education. So you can see at Seattle U, we are dedicated to educating the whole person, to professional formation, and to empowering leaders for a just and humane world. It is often a deciding factor for why students choose Seattle U, and it is a force that unifies faculty, staff, students, really the entire community at SU. It's something we really try to uphold and live by in every capacity across the university, and you'll really see this everywhere, all across campus, on the syllabi, for every class you take. You'll hear this over and over again, just kind of this idea of living our mission. All right, so a few little quick facts about our campus. So SU was founded in 1891, and we are one of 27 Jesuit colleges in the nation. So for folks who haven't been to our campus before, that red border at the bottom of the screen is our entire campus. And it may look a little bit big, but folks can get across campus in about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how fast you walk. And we are located in a very vibrant area and surrounded by some pretty diverse neighborhoods, including downtown Seattle, Capitol Hill, and the International District. This is particularly neat for our nursing students as we are located on what is called Pill Hill, which is essentially a couple blocks that house about 4 hospitals. These include Harborview, Swedish Medical Center, First Hill, Swedish Medical Center, Cherry Hill, and the Virginia Mason Medical Center. And we have about 7,300 students total. And of those, about 4,700 are undergrad students. And the rest are law or graduate students. So we do have law students and graduate students on campus. And of those undergraduate of that undergraduate population, about 1,200 are transfer students or post-bac students. So we do have one of the highest transfer population rates that are at a private institution in the Pacific Northwest. All of our classes are 100% taught by SU faculty. So you'll never get to be in a class where, you know, a teacher assistant is teaching the class. It's always going to be professors and faculty. And you'll find your average class size at SU to be about 18 students. And, this can vary from class to class, with an overall ratio of about 11 students to 1 professor campus-wide. All right, so some information on financial aid and scholarships. The annual cost of tuition at Seattle U is about $50,328, and this is for the upcoming academic year, so 2022-2023, and this would be for a full-time student. While we acknowledge that the price tag may seem a little bit more expensive than most institutions, I always like to let students know that about 93% of our students do receive some sort of aid. Need-based aid is absolutely available, and we highly encourage students to submit their FAFSA or WAFSA as soon as they submit their application. The financial aid award won't be processed until after the student is admitted. So again, we're just trying to allow students to really consider all factors, including that financial aid package, which is very important. And then merit scholarship opportunities are also available for our transfer students. So transfer students are automatically considered for these merit-based scholarships upon admission. So it's not an additional application. You will be automatically considered if you are admitted. And then post-baccalaureate students, unfortunately, are not eligible for merit scholarships, but they may be eligible for loans and potentially other things through the FAFSA, but merit scholarships will not be one of them. So some other scholarship opportunities include the Alfie Scholars program. So this is for students coming from community colleges and who have completed associate's degrees and have a GPA of 3.5 or higher. Students will be eligible to apply for this Alfie Scholars program. And then they will also need to complete a separate application in order to qualify for the Alfie Scholars. They will need to write a few essays. There is an interview involved, and that is a $30,000 scholarship split up into 2 years. And I always like to let students know that financial and merit scholarships are stackable. There is also the Phi Theta Kappa Scholarship that is for community college students who were members of Phi Theta Kappa at their community college, which is the Community College Honor Society. And then we are also a yellow ribbon school for any of your student veterans or dependent veterans. So we do have that aid available for you as well. All right, so a few BSN program highlights. So the first thing to know is that this is a cohort model. When students come in for their first quarter, they'll be starting with about 80 to 90 other students, generally speaking, and the student will stay with those 80 to 90 students all the way till the end of their program. So the students will be taking the same courses during the same quarters at the same time. So students really get to know each other very well. And in that first quarter, the students will actually start off with a class called Health Assessment Interventions. And that is where students will be learning all the hands-on nursing stuff. So, for example, they're going to learn how to wash their hands. They're going to learn how to transfer patients, learn how to pass drugs, learn how to give injections, and students will actually practice on each other. So they'll get to know each other really, really well, especially when they're poking each other with needles. And again, students usually get pretty close with these people as they spend the next 7 quarters with each other together in this cohort. Second thing I want to highlight is advising. So students are required to meet with an advisor every quarter they're here, and as a transfer student, students will be meeting with their transfer advisor for the first year minimum. So again, strong advising within that BSN, within our BSN transfer program. They will be able to chat about courses, registration, and to really help get the students settled in and figure out how things are going to work and talk about nursing in general, etc. Students are also going to be connected to a faculty advisor, and all of our faculty are nurses, so students will be able to get to chat with them in depth, and in their second year, they will be meeting with this faculty advisor every single quarter as well. The idea of having this kind of professional advisor is that students will be able to figure out kind of their first year at Seattle U, get their courses, timeline, graduation timeline figured out. And then they will also be able to get that mentorship and support in regards to, talking about post-graduation, talking about the NCLEX, which is the National Licensure Exam. So the advisors really start supporting students right off the bat. The next thing is a population health internship. So this is a recent addition to our BSN program, and the idea behind it is that we're really interested in giving students experience and exposure to population health or public health. COVID-19 has really shown us why this is so important, in that it's really emphasized that medicine and healthcare don't always take place in healthcare settings or acute settings or inpatient settings. So this internship places students within a community. It can be a school, maybe it's working with homeless population, maybe it's working with a traveling medical van, etc. The purpose being that students really start to learn to listen to the communities and figuring out what the problems and needs within those communities are. So the second quarter that the students will be in this internship, the student actually creates some sort of intervention to address that problem. And then in the third quarter, students will actually implement that intervention. So one of the most important things about this population health internship is that students will really be able to value this long-term relationship with the community, which is why the college built it into this year long, because it really takes time to build this relationship with the community, especially with these vulnerable, marginalized populations. So the clinical performance lab, or the CPL, will be nursing students' second home. It's basically 20,000 square feet, and it's housed at the Cherry Hill Swedish Hospital. So it's just right up the hill from Seattle U, and it really gives students that feel that they're in the hospital setting. So this is where students will be getting all their training, all that information I was talking about previously about learning how to give injections, transferring patients, etc. And students will be in the CPL for every single clinical that they do. There's a few very cool things to the CPL, including these high fidelity and low fidelity mannequins. So high fidelity mannequins are mannequins that can respond to you, so they can talk, they have heartbeats. There is one that literally gives birth over and over again. She has fluids coming out, she makes noises. There's all these things that they can program the mannequin to do, but this gives students the opportunity to gain the experience without actually practicing on somebody who is a live person. And then the last thing is education abroad. So nursing students have a pretty packed schedule, and if you've taken a look, students will not have time to go study abroad during the regular school year, which includes fall, winter, or spring. However, there is some time for students to study abroad after their junior year. So students can do their traditional study abroad experience, and there are also specific nursing study abroad options. And the purpose being that students have an immersive experience in a different country and are still thinking about nursing, still kind of practicing these skills, learning about nursing. And usually this will look pretty similar to that population health internship, but with a different community abroad.
All right, thank you so much, Jennifer, for all of that great information. We are now going to spend some time talking about the application process and the prerequisite requirements for the BSN program. Before we get into too many details about the process and the prerequisites, we did just want to give you all a brief overview of some of the student profile for the fall 2021 BSN cohort. And a little bit of information just before we share this data is that it is not completely an inclusive data set. So we understand that there is a lot of gray area in these different kind of identities. So we wanted to make sure you all knew that as well. But regardless, we did want to share a little bit of information with you about the student profile. So you can see that the average cumulative GPA for the fall 2021 cohort of admitted students was around a 3.608. The average prerequisite GPA was a 3.756, excuse me. And this just might give you a good idea of where you are in relation to these competitive GPAs for admitted students, although this could change year to year, just depending on how many students apply and what students' GPAs are. You can see that 22% of the admitted students for 2021 were post-baccalaureate students. So that means that these students had already received a bachelor's degree and are now pursuing their bachelor's in nursing degree. 24% of students were transfer students coming from four-year universities. 54% of transfer students for the nursing program were coming from community colleges. 83% identified as female, 16% identified as male, 1% didn't identify as male or female, and 6% had some veteran status, so either previously serving or possibly even a dependent of a veteran. And then this is some information about the application checklist. The first thing that we want to make sure you know is that the fall 2023 BSN cohort is going to be due on December 1st, 2022. So December 1st is always our deadline for the BSN application. We only accept applications in the fall. So when you're applying, please remember to select fall 2023 as your start term for the nursing program. If you select winter or spring or even summer quarters, the nursing application is not going to show up. So if you're running into any issues finding the nursing program, it's probably just because you don't have fall selected as the start term. We do have a specific transfer application for Seattle University transfer students, and this is the application that you will be using to apply to the nursing program. So you'll be able to create a login with an email and a password. You'll be able to get in and out of that application. It's through our Seattle University website, and that application is going to be available in the summertime. Even though the application deadline is not until December 1st, we highly recommend that you apply sooner than December 1st. We will be reviewing applications much sooner than December 1st. And we recommend that you apply early just so we can follow up with you if you might be missing any materials or prerequisites, just so we can provide you some additional advising to make sure that you have a complete application and that you can be a successful applicant to the program. There's three things highlighted here regarding the application. The prerequisite form is where you are going to give us information about which of the BSN prerequisites you have already completed, which prerequisites you might still have in progress, and when you're going to be completing those. And that prerequisite form is very important for the application. It helps our team keep track of where you're at in your prerequisite completion, and also helps us identify whether or not you're actually eligible for the BSN program. The second component we wanted to highlight here is the essay questions. So there are two essay questions in the application. One of the essay questions is, just asking a little bit more information about your interest in nursing, how you chose nursing as a possible career, some of your goals with becoming a nurse. And the second question is related to our Seattle University mission. You might remember at the beginning of the presentation, Jennifer just sharing a little bit more about the importance of the mission at Seattle University. So we want to know how you connect with that mission. And then you can see this third section, the activity log. This is similar to a resume, but the nice part about our application is that you don't need to upload or, craft a formal resume. You can use this activity log to share details with us about any relevant healthcare, volunteer, work experience, any medical experience, pretty much any skills or strengths that you have related to nursing. We would love to hear about in this activity log. And we do recognize that it is absolutely a privilege to, have those more formal volunteer or work experiences in the healthcare field, just due to everybody's different, situations, different abilities to work, things like that. And similarly with the COVID-19 pandemic, we know that it's been very difficult to secure volunteer or work experiences in the healthcare field. So for this activity log, just think about any skills or strengths you have that are relevant to nursing. Maybe you're a caretaker in your own family or in your community. Maybe you have other relevant skills that will help you be a successful nurse in the future. So yeah, please use that activity log to just share some details with us about your experience. So those are a few main components of the application. The second part here that we want to focus on is your transcripts. We are going to need to receive transcripts from any college or university or institution you have previously attended or that you're currently attending. Please submit transcripts for all of those institutions. That's very important, just so we can, accurately be evaluating your credit, giving you credit where credit is due. You earned those credits, so we want to make sure that we can transfer in as many credits as possible to Seattle University. And then if you do have some courses in progress, we are going to need an updated transcript once fall term 2022 is complete. So this is very important. When you apply, you're going to upload, a variety of transcripts. But if you are taking courses in the fall, which many BS applicants do continue to take classes in the fall term, we need an updated transcript from you as soon as your grades are posted on your transcript. We know that that's likely going to be after the December 1st deadline. That is okay. And you can also send us just an unofficial copy of that updated transcript. So keep that in mind. We're going to be sending out a lot of reminder emails about that kind of updated transcript requirement if it applies to you. But please, be checking your email, check your junk folder. We want to make sure we receive that updated transcript from you, just so we can continue to verify your progress with your prerequisite completion and also with your grades as well. And then if applicable, there's a few other components here that we wanted to highlight. There is a $60 application fee. There are a variety of waivers available. So if you need a fee waiver, there's a space in the application, to kind of select a waiver that applies to you. If you're not able to pay the $60, it's not a problem. If you are going to be using any AP test exams, maybe IB test exams, other exam scores to try to fulfill prerequisites, please send us your official exam scores. We are going to need those. And then the English proficiency requirement we're going to talk about on the next slide. But yeah, this is just a basic kind of application checklist. And once you're in the application itself, you'll see a lot more information as well. All right, so I'm not going to spend too much time on the English proficiency requirement. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us, connect with your transfer admissions counselor. We'd be more than happy to chat with you about this. But we do, at Seattle University, we do have an English proficiency requirement, and this is for students who might have a different primary language than English, which is, we do view that as a strength and an asset. But if your primary language is not English, you are going to need to meet this English proficiency requirement. There's a few different ways to meet the requirement. We can review your college level English coursework if you've taken English composition requirements, maybe for your associate's degree or another program that you're working on. We can also accept a variety of tests, different degrees. We can look at your high school transcripts. So there's a lot of different ways to meet this requirement. There is a section on the Seattle University website. If you just type in English proficiency to the search bar, you'll find a lot more information, but we wanted to make you aware that this is a requirement for students where English is not their primary language. All right, this is probably one of the most important slides. So it's going to be a lot of information, a lot of details. I'm going to try to break it down in the best way possible, but feel free to rewatch this section. Again, reach out to us if you have any additional questions. We're more than happy to support you through navigating the entire application, making sure that you have prerequisites that are going to satisfy the requirements for the BSN program. You'll see here that there are 10 different prerequisites. So I'll read them out loud. Introduction to biology, introduction to chemistry, statistics, anatomy and physiology 1, anatomy and physiology 2, microbiology, introduction to psychology, lifespan psychology, human nutrition, and then another math requirement, college algebra for business, or pre-calculus or higher. So these are the 10 prerequisite courses. You need to complete these courses by the end of spring term 2023. So all 10 must be completed by the end of spring term 2023 to guarantee that you will be eligible to start in the fall of 2023. That's the following term if you're admitted to the cohort for the BSN program. Some additional information to know is that there's a few things that we need you to have completed by the end of fall term 2022. So again, the application deadline is December 1st, 2022. We do not need these things completed or these prerequisites completed by December 1st, but we do need them completed by the end of fall term 2022. And that's also why, previously when I was sharing about transcripts, that's also why we are going to need to see updated transcripts from you to just verify that you have these specific prerequisites completed. So 7 out of these 10 prerequisites must be completed by fall term 2022, and at least one core science prerequisite also needs to be completed. So that could be anatomy and physiology 1, anatomy and physiology 2, or microbiology. At least one of those needs to be included in that 7 out of 10 prerequisite completion. We're also going to need at least one math prerequisite completed. So for our BSN program at Seattle University, there are 2 math prerequisites. One of them is statistics, and then the other one is college algebra for business or another math class. It could be pre-calculus or higher. If you are in Washington State, Math 107, Math in Society, does not fulfill the second math requirement. You are going to need to find a class, a college level math class. It could be pre-calculus. It could be a class higher than pre-calculus in that math kind of pathway. It could also be, kind of a business-oriented math class with a college algebra foundation, but it must be a college level class. It cannot be a pre-college level class. So, intermediate algebra or other algebra classes often are not college level. We consider those to be pre-college level classes. So, work with your advisor at your current institution, look on your course catalog, your different options for enrollment. And if you need help finding that second math class, again, reach out to us. But we need at least statistics or this college algebra for business, pre-calculus or higher. We need one of those completed by the end of fall term 2022. And aside from that, there are some expiration dates for courses. So as you're applying, as you're gathering your transcripts from all of your previous or current institutions to include in your application, please pay attention to when you may have completed certain prerequisite requirements. And the same goes towards thinking about your course planning. If you still have prerequisites to take, pay attention to these expiration dates. So on the left-hand side of the prerequisites, we are going to need any science classes, including statistics. I know it's not technically a science class, but any science classes plus statistics, you will have need to completed in the year 2018 or later. So if you completed any of these classes before 2018, 2005, 2010, 2015, those courses are going to be considered expired. So we need to have seen these courses on the left-hand side completed within 5 years of the program start. And that means that these courses must have been completed in 2018 or later. Otherwise, you are going to need to repeat those courses if they are considered expired. And then on the right-hand side, you can see our psychology classes, nutrition, and then that second math requirement. Those courses need to be completed within 10 years of the program start. So that means completed in the year 2013 or later. So if you completed them in 2009, unfortunately, you are going to need to retake any of these classes if it is considered expired. So these are the prerequisites. It's a lot of information. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the new information. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. We're more than happy to work with you to understand the prerequisite requirements and offer any, kind of follow-up advising as well as you make your plan to complete these. All right, we do have a few additional requirements as well, and this is just to make sure that you are able to start the program in fall 2023. So because this is a transfer track, the program is 2 years long. We need you to complete these additional BSN requirements just to make sure that you're going to have a very straightforward transfer and be able to, be in the program at Seattle University for those 2 years to receive your BSN. Your prerequisite GPA, we just talked about prerequisites, and your cumulative GPA need to be at least a 3.0 or higher. So you might remember when we were discussing the student profile. For students who were admitted in fall 2021, you know that the prerequisite GPA, the cumulative GPA, it was much higher than a 3.0. So we see competitive applicants having cumulative and prerequisite GPAs of above a 3.0, but we do need you to have a minimum 3.0 prereq GPA, minimum 3.0 cumulative GPA in order to apply. We also need you to have a 2.0 or higher in each prerequisite course. And this is just because we need all courses to have a 2.0 or higher grade in order for them to transfer into Seattle University. But again, you know that to be a competitive applicant, you're going to need to have grades stronger than a 2.0 in your prerequisites to really be competitive. And then we have a repeat policy. This is very important. We do not allow more than 2 total repeated prerequisite courses for the BSN program. So the only exception to this is if the courses are outdated. So going back to, those requirements around taking certain courses in 2018 or later, taking certain courses in 2013 or later, if you need to repeat those courses because they're expired, those are not going to apply to this repeat policy. However, if you recently took psychology, didn't get the grade that you were hoping, you repeated the course, and then maybe you also retook general biology, repeated the course, or needed to repeat the course due to a low grade, those would be your maximum. So I just want to make it clear, it's 2 classes total. It's not that maybe you've retaken psychology a few times, you've retaken biology also a few times. It's just 2 retakes total, or repeats. And don't let this discourage you. If you have questions about this, please reach out to us. There's also space in the application for you to include information or additional context on any repeated courses, information about how certain COVID-19 impacts for your academics or your personal life, any kind of gaps in your education or lower grades. There is space in the application to provide that information, whatever you're comfortable sharing with us. But yeah, we do have a repeat policy. Pay attention to that and let us know if you have questions. And then it's very important that you are entering the program with either a transferable associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, or 90 transferable quarter credits or 60 transferable semester credits by the time you start the program. So if you are admitted to the BSN program, you would be starting that program in fall of 2023. It's very important that you're coming in at junior standing, at least. So, transferable associate's degree, that usually secures those 90 transferable quarter credits. Bachelor's degree, that's great. If you've completed that, it's no problem for you to enter in the fall, or the 90 transferable quarter credits 60 transferable semester credits. Those are going to grant you junior standing. And again, this is a 2-year program. We need you to have junior standing so that you can be eligible to start in the fall. And then the last thing listed here is just a hands-on art class or some sort of class where, you know, you're creating something in the class with your hands, or, you know, just some sort of creative expression coming from you. This is required for students who are not completing a transferable associate's degree or a bachelor's degree. And this course, it's not a prerequisite, but you need to have completed this by the end of the summer term prior to beginning the BSN program in the fall. And this is one of our general education requirements. It's called UCORE 1300, Creative Expression. So just because of scheduling with, you know, your nursing schedule, starting in the fall, it's good to have this class taken care of. So we really need you to, this is an additional BSN requirement. We really need you to have that hands-on art class completed by the summer term prior to beginning in the fall. All right, this is just a list of some things we do not require. So please do not send us your high school transcripts. You don't need to send us any SAT or ACT scores. You do not need to take the TEAS test to apply to Seattle University. And we also do not accept any recommendation letters. So hopefully that's a little bit less work for you in, you know, coordinating, getting recommendation letters, but it's not a requirement. We don't accept them. We also won't read them. And that's just because we want to make sure that everybody is submitting the same exact materials so that we can have our most equitable review as possible. And then speaking of our review process, we do use what we call a holistic review process at Seattle University. So that means that we are going to be looking at many different components of your application. You can see some of these listed here: completion of your prerequisite courses, thinking about your grade trend, your overall GPA, your prerequisite GPA, really looking at those essays, making sure that you're able to come in at junior level, and then just your alignment with kind of some of the SU values, the mission statement, things like that. And with the essays, I would highly recommend, you know, spend some thoughtful time on your essays. It's really the only part of the application where we get to hear about you in your own words, outside of your transcripts, outside of your grades, outside of, you know, your timeline for completing your prereqs. So really consider using that essay section to share with us about what makes you who you are, where you're coming from, your interest in nursing, all of that. And then we're almost to the end of the presentation, but this is just kind of a big picture. We're now zooming out on the entire process. So stage 1 is the application process. Again, that deadline is December 1st, 2022. Please make sure that all of the components of the application, including transcripts, are submitted by that deadline. If you can apply earlier, please do that, just in case we need to reach out with you. Please remember to check your email, check your junk, check your spam folders. We will be reaching out to you if we need anything from you, so it's important that you check your email. Stage 2 is the interview portion. So stage 1, you're going to apply. If you are selected to interview, you will be notified by us sometime in mid-February, and this interview is going to be with staff and faculty from the College of Nursing. And then stage 3 after the interviews is kind of your final notification of admission, and you'll be receiving that kind of decision letter in mid-March. Stage 3 is also where we are going to be verifying if you have completed, you know, your 90 credits, getting you to junior standing, or your 60 credits, or, you know, your associate's degree, bachelor's degree. We're going to be really looking for that hands-on art class. And this is also a time for you to submit any final official transcripts so that we can evaluate all of your credits appropriately and officially. So it's a very long process. It's great that you're watching this recording. It means that you're already taking really great steps in your application process for nursing school. So congratulations for all of your hard work in, you know, really pursuing this pathway for yourself. And then I believe we just have, one more slide. if you are selected to be interviewed for the program, that is a huge accomplishment. If you're not selected to interview, unfortunately, that means that you will not be progressing in the admissions process. You can always decide, to apply in the future. But for the BSN interviews, you can expect them to be approximately 20 minutes, 4 to 5 questions, kind of a mix of get to know you questions and questions about your skills and strengths related to nursing. Again, the faculty and staff from the College of Nursing will be interviewing you, and we really want you to be prepared for this interview. So, prepare as if it were a job interview, and you'll get notified kind of in that mid-February, early to mid-February. So continue to check your email, very important. And then if you do interview and you are not admitted, again, it's a huge accomplishment to have been selected for the interview process, and you can always apply again in the future. And this is it. So thank you so much. This is the BSN Information Session for Seattle University for the fall 2023 program. If you have any questions at all, please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you and just be able to support you through the process. And our email is transfer@seattleu.edu. All right. See you later, everybody.